The global welcome mat hasn't just been pulled, it's been set on fire and replaced with a high-tech security fence. We are currently witnessing a historic pivot where diversity has been swapped for deportation as the top political priority. While you've been busy scrolling for your next beach destination, several major world powers have quietly weaponized their legal systems to initiate the largest interior removal operations we've seen in our lifetime. This isn't just about a few border patrols anymore. We are talking about multi-billion-dollar removal machines designed to find, detain, and expel anyone who doesn't have their paperwork in perfect 24-karat order. Welcome back to Mr. Globe TV, the only place where we give you the straight, unpolished truth about the world, while everyone else is busy selling you a filtered dream. Today, we are diving into the top 5 countries that are doing mass deportation in 2026. Look, I'm not here to be a buzzkill, but the wait-and-see approach to your residency just became a one-way ticket to an airport holding cell. From a nation that spent more on deportation this year than some countries spend on their entire military, to a former immigrant paradise that is now treating international students like expired milk, the landscape has shifted. One country on our list has literally introduced an AI-driven repatriation offensive that's more efficient than an Amazon delivery. Only instead of a package arriving at your door, it's a government agent. We've crunched the numbers, tracked the budget shifts, and followed the police raids so you don't have to. We are counting down from 5 to the absolute number 1 most aggressive nation right now. Stick around to the end, because the country at the top of this list used to be the loudest advocate for open borders, and their 180-degree flip is going to leave you speechless. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and actually know where you are treated best, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to be the last to know the doors are closing. Let's get into it. Number 5. France. Coming in at number 5 on our list is the land of croissants, wine, and, as of January 1st, 2026, a whole lot of digital anxiety. France has officially closed the book on what many called the era of silent residency. For decades, if you paid your taxes, kept your head down, and didn't accidentally offend a boulangerie owner, you could generally renew your papers without much fuss. Those days are gone. The French government has rolled out a mandatory digital civics exam that is making even the most seasoned expats sweat. You now need a staggering 80% score just to apply for a multi-year permit. That is 32 out of 40 questions correct. And trust me, they aren't just asking you about the colors of the flag. This is a 45-minute digital gauntlet testing your Republican integration. Think of it like a first date, where the other person isn't just checking your vibe, but auditing your soul. They're testing your stance on laïcité, secularism, and your deep-seated commitment to French values. It's like being asked to summarize the entire Enlightenment while a timer counts down. If you fail to demonstrate that you are sufficiently French in your thinking, the government is no longer giving out participation trophies. Instead, they are defaulting to OQTFs, the dreaded obligation to leave French territory. The sarcasm in the air at the local prefectures is thick enough to spread on a baguette. You could have lived in Bordeaux for 5 years, but if you don't nail that exam, the system view is basically, thanks for the taxes, now here's your boarding pass. It's a performance-based model where your residency card is the prize for a test many French citizens would probably struggle to pass. If you're planning on staying in the Hexagon, it's time to trade the Netflix for some history books. Because in 2026, France isn't just looking for residents, it's looking for patriots. Number 4 on our list is Canada. The Great White North, which has recently decided to become the Great White. Wait, you're still here? Canada spent the last decade positioning itself as the world's most welcoming neighbor, but in 2026, the velvet rope has officially been put up. If you've been following the news, you know the government is aggressively shrinking its temporary resident population to under 5%. To give you some perspective, that's not just a minor trim, it's a full-on buzz cut for a country that previously couldn't get enough newcomers. The most jarring shift is the 49% slash in new international student arrivals. Essentially, Canada has looked at its housing market and infrastructure and decided to hit the emergency brake. But the unique danger in 2026 isn't just for people trying to get in, it's for the hundreds of thousands already inside the house. The government is currently running a one-time initiative to transition only the top-tier workers to permanent residency. Think high-demand healthcare pros or specialized trades. If you aren't in that elite must-have category, your path to PR has basically vanished into the Canadian tundra. The humor here, if you can call it that, is how quickly the Canadian dream became a Canadian deadline. We are seeing a massive wave of forced exits, where the government isn't necessarily kicking you out with a dramatic escort on day one. They are simply letting your work or study permit expire, and then politely, but very firmly, knocking on your door. In 2026, O Canada has a new verse, and it's mostly about checking your departure date. If you're currently in Canada on a temporary permit and don't fall into that narrow top-tier window, you aren't just looking at a tougher renewal. You're looking at a sunset clause on your residency. Number 3. Germany, a country that has spent decades trying to be the world's most welcoming host, but in 2026, it seems they've finally checked the guest list and realized the house is full. Germany has completely flipped the script with its new Repatriation Improvement Act, a title that sounds like a polite customer service upgrade but is actually a high-speed eviction notice. The most shocking move? The government can now classify countries like India, Morocco, and Tunisia as safe almost overnight. Now, why does that matter to you? In the past, if you were from one of these spots and your residency appeal was denied, you could usually hang around while your court case wound its way through the famously slow German legal system. Not anymore. In 2026, an appeal no longer suspends your deportation. You could be sitting in a courtroom arguing why you should stay, while the authorities are literally loading your luggage onto a plane. It's the legal equivalent of being told the party is over while you're still mid-sentence. But here is where it gets truly cold. Germany has officially abolished mandatory legal representation for those in deportation custody. Starting in July 2026, the state is no longer picking up the tab for your lawyer. You are essentially on your own against a bureaucratic machine that speaks a language with 20-letter words and zero room for error. It's like being thrown into a high-stakes poker game where everyone else has an ace up their sleeve and you aren't even sure of the rules. For a country that prides itself on order and law, the new order is simply leave. If you're from one of these newly minted safe zones, the German Willkommenskultur has been replaced by a very efficient, very fast exit door. You aren't just fighting for a visa anymore. You're fighting a system that has decided speed is more important than your story. Number 2 on our countdown brings us to the United Kingdom, where the government has decided that keep calm and carry on no longer applies to anyone without a valid biometric residence permit. In 2026, the UK has launched what can only be described as the most aggressive interior crackdown in British history. If you thought the hostile environment was just a catchy headline from a few years ago, welcome to the sequel. And this time, it has a massive budget and a very high-tech upgrade. Raids on local businesses, the places where people usually hide in plain sight like nail bars, car washes, and takeaways, have surged by a staggering 77%. The Home Office isn't just sending letters and hoping for the best anymore. They are physically knocking doors down at a rate that would make a SWAT team blush. But here is the part no one is talking about. The human element is being replaced by the algorithm element. The Home Office has officially rolled out AI-driven surveillance and body-worn video tech that can identify and process people on the spot. We are talking about live facial recognition being used during these raids to cross-reference every person in the room against a global database in seconds. It's like a futuristic version of Guess Who, except if the computer picks you, you're in a van before you can finish your shift. They've already deported over 50,000 people this year alone. And we are only just getting started. The UK used to be the land of civil liberties, but in 2026, those liberties apparently don't extend to your workplace. They aren't just waiting at the border for people to arrive in small boats. They are coming to your place of work, while you're literally painting a customer's nails or scrubbing a hubcap. If you're working in the black economy in the UK right now, you aren't just looking over your shoulder for a police car. You're looking for a camera lens that already knows exactly who you are. Finally, we've reached the number one spot, and it's the big one. If the previous countries were ripples, this is a full-blown tsunami. The United States has officially moved past the era of border control and entered a phase of total interior enforcement. In 2026, the land of the free has become the land of the One Big Beautiful Act, a piece of legislation that has turned ICE into an absolute juggernaut. We're talking about a budget that has ballooned to over $170 billion, effectively making ICE richer and more powerful than the FBI and every single state law enforcement agency combined. It's like the government decided to trade in their standard police cruisers for a fleet of tanks and told them the target is anyone without a permanent status. The most jarring shift here isn't just the money, it's who they're looking for. The administration has dropped the worst of the worst rhetoric and pivoted to anyone they can find. We're seeing a focus on people with absolutely no criminal records, moms taking kids to school, neighbors who have lived here for a decade, and families who thought they were safe because they were in the system. In 2026, being in the system with a pending or temporary visa actually means you're just easier to find. The goal is a staggering 1 million deportations per year, a number so high it feels like a factory production quota rather than a legal process. To handle this massive influx, the U.S. has started constructing literal tent cities for detention, massive, high-tech encampments designed to hold over 100,000 people at a time. It's a deportation industrial complex that operates with the speed and cold efficiency of a logistics company. If you're on a temporary protected status or your renewal is just sitting in a pile somewhere, you aren't just in a backlog anymore. You are officially in the crosshairs. The sarcasm of the American dream has never been sharper. It's still a dream for some, but for millions of others in 2026, it's a race against a clock that's ticking louder than ever. And there you have it, the top 5 countries that are doing mass deportation in 2026. We've traveled from the workplace raids in the UK through the recalibrated dreams of Canada, into the Republican integration exams of France, past Germany's high-speed legal exits, and ended with the US turning interior enforcement into a literal industry. If 2026 has taught us anything, it's that having a passport is no longer enough. You need to have a strategy. The Global Welcome is now a subscription service that can be canceled at any time, often without a refund. Thank you so much for riding along with me through this countdown. I know this isn't exactly the sunny beach content you might be used to, but here at Mr. Globe TV, I'd rather give you the cold truth now than have you find it out at a boarding gate later. Your time and your safety are the most valuable things you have. Don't let a change in policy catch you off guard. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you currently living in one of these 5 countries? Have you noticed the vibe shift on the ground, or are you already packing your bags for a safer haven? Drop a comment below. Let's start a conversation and help each other navigate this new world. If you found this helpful, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Globe TV. We're tracking the world so you can live in the best parts of it. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.